All right, welcome to the next episode of the Rap Thought Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about Ghostface Killah's 2007 album. 2006 album, Fishscale.
Fishscale, Ghostface Killah. It's his first album back as Ghostface Killah because he had previously dropped the Killah.
For being, I think he did that because he was on Def Jam and they're like, okay, we want you to sell more records, so take the Killah out of your name.
Interesting.
That's my guess. I don't know why he did it, but
maybe. I mean, first, the album was the Pretty Tony album. He dropped it off of.
Yeah,
he came back.
And before we get into it, we are recording this May 31st, and with everything going on, we do want to mention, R.I.P. George Floyd, and we want to speak on that a little bit and just send prayers and thoughts to his family and anyone that knows him, and definitely want to support justice for him.
It's a big time right now, and definitely it's kind of affected my mood for the past week a little bit, not gonna lie about it. It's sad to see everything out there because there's definitely a injustice and a struggle and disparity out in the world. And, I think it sucks because every single time this happens, we get this huge momentum going and it doesn't, to me, seem to be channeled in one particular direction. So then it just kind of dissipates everywhere and then it loses credibility because people find the holes. So if you have people out there protesting and then one person fucks it up for everybody else, then the focus turns into how that protest that was 90% peaceful and that little small 10% or even less of it got out of hand. The focus is on that 10% and then it loses credibility.
Yeah, and I think for us, we want to send a message out of supporting the cause and supporting what we're all fighting for, and that is proper justice and reform to our judicial and policing departments.
Right. I hope that we can make a dent this time. I was telling Matthew earlier before the podcast, it makes me think of the Occupy movement where, it seems similar because the numbers are there again. We have a lot of states in solidarity for one cause. And even it's starting to even turn a page for people that are pro law enforcement. They've slightly tweaked their narrative into, okay, there's all these good cops, but we really need to get rid of the bad cops. And I see that as a win. However you want to phrase it, it sounds like we're on the same page. So it'd be cool if we can get this momentum going and really make a change. But what I think it may even have to come to is, attacking, not, bear with me as I say attacking, but really going after small government. We need to stop going after Trump and the White House and everything. We need to start looking at local people.
Yeah,
mayors,
and
representatives.
And to bring this all back to hip hop in a sense, Killer Mike put out a great speech, I think yesterday or the day before that. If you haven't watched it, go search for it on Google or Twitter or Instagram, whatever, YouTube. He basically says what Brandon just said, vote for your local community and vote to put the right people in place in authority. Be strategic about it, be smart about it, understand who you're putting in power in your local governments. And that's where you can make a huge dent, just starting there.
Yeah, and I feel like we have to. I just from looking at what's happened over the last even decade, we get out there, we get the numbers, we're heard, but then no changes are made. So it's time. They know that we're out here. They know that these problems persist, and it's not like, that these, oh yeah, we weren't aware of this. Thank you for letting us know. It's like, yeah, you've been new about this, and now it's time to make changes. So who do we go after to make those changes? That's what we really need to start thinking about. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Even though it's been a tough week for everyone, I think it's good for us to push forward and continue on putting out good content and enjoying what we do and looking forward to a better future and just by putting out that energy of what we want to change.
And it can happen. We just have to find a way to put that energy in the right areas. And, you know, we're making noise, but we need to start looking at what can make these changes and how do we get those wheels to start turning. So
well said.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, thank you for tuning in. We want to thank all of our listeners on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, any of the other platforms where you listen to our podcast. And thank you for supporting us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for being there with us. It's cool because, you know, feel like as we go along, we've had listeners every day. And there's never been a day where we haven't had any. So, you know, I want to know what you guys are liking and everything. Like, I'm just kind of the curiosity. So definitely start reaching out to us a little bit. We'll talk.
Yeah. So back to the subject at hand, Ghostface Killah.
Ghostface.
Motherfucking Ghostface Killah.
Born Dennis Coles in May 9th of 70. It's always kind of interesting to hear artists' actual names because sometimes they're, you know, their persona doesn't really match their name, like Calvin Broadus, Snoop Dogg.
Oh man, that's a great name though.
It's a cool name, but it's kind, you know, it's just Snoop Dogg though, but then Calvin. So
oh man, Ghostface. I think I texted you during the week, and I had heard this album before when it came out, but just listening to it again, and then taking a look at his whole discography. And being part of Wu-Tang, for me, I think I have to put him top 15, top 20 of all time.
You know, as I was going through this album, I thought that just the way that he spins stories, he's very vivid, he's very detailed, and he's very detailed in a brief amount of time. And it's someone that, like, if he were my grandfather, I'd be sitting and listening to his stories. Just the way that he puts things together. So I like his wordplay. He's a cool dude. When did you first come in contact with Ghostface?
Obviously through Wu-Tang, for sure. I got into Wu-Tang, I think when I was in late middle school, maybe 8th grade. Going into high school, 9th grade, when I was really just getting my feet wet with hip hop and digging and just kind of searching through. And I got in, would listen to Enter the 36 Chambers, the first album by Wu-Tang. And Ghostface definitely stood out to me. His voice is very distinct.
It is.
You know when Ghostface is rapping, even though he's in Wu-Tang with 8 other members, even though they all are very distinct, and I think that's what makes Wu-Tang so great is they have so many different characters and they all stand out in their own way. But Ghostface stood out a little bit more to me. Just his energy and his inflections and the way he raps and his storytelling is just incredible. I have to say though, I have to be honest, the first Wu-Tang member I got into like their solo stuff was GZA.
Okay.
I gravitated towards GZA initially, loved his album Liquid Swords. And then from there, I got into Ghostface Killah, and I don't think anyone else in Wu-Tang even comes close to Ghostface in terms of solo records. Raekwon comes close, but I don't think anyone can top him in Wu-Tang.
I'm going to go Method Man.
Method Man's got good albums too. Method Man's great too, but oh man, Ghostface is just so consistent, and he's been diverse. He's made an R&B album. You know, he's been on different record labels. He's done different types of albums. He's continuing to do it now. He's worked with Bad Bad Not Good. He's worked with Adrian Young, who is an incredible artist and musician. So he's done all these crazy albums that are just super creative.
I think I gravitate more towards Method Man because of his flow. He's a funny dude.
Oh yeah,
he's super funny.
Yeah,
and I've always liked funny artists.
Yeah, he's charismatic. He pulls you in with his humor, but he can also be super aggressive as well, and he can scare you if he wants to.
I just think of that Chappelle skit. It just laid the the hanger on the stove and cooked it for like 5 minutes. And stuff like that. It's super funny. I remember because I first heard that on Chappelle's show, and then I remember when I got into Method Man, and then I actually heard the skit. I'm like, oh, this is actually word for word. This is not played.
You didn't add anything
out of context.
to it. And you're like, this is wild.
So super funny. But I have to say, like, my first contact with not contact or interaction. The first intro to Ghostface Killah is actually back 7th grade when I was playing Def Jam Vendetta.
Oh, hell yeah.
Played that fighting game?
Yeah.
So sick. But I just remember Ghostface Killah because he had that arm bracelet with the eagle on it. And I think when I started fighting him, like, he would just fuck me up. And it's like, man, fuck this dude. Like, fuck Ghostface Killah, man. I can't get past this guy. So, yeah, he was kicking my ass back in the day. But then once I got the hang of it, it wasn't a thing. But, just certain songs here and there. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, he's a cool dude. Like I said, I appreciate the storytelling. I don't know if it's something about New York and these storytellers, but, you have Nas, you got Biggie, you have Ghostface.
There's something in the water in New York in terms of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty incredible.
It is. It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, man, kind of just start jumping into this album and start talking about why it's such a cool thing.
Yeah, let's get into Fishscale. Before we go in track for track, I remember listening to this album when it first came out.
Oh.
Because I was, at that time, if it came out in 2006, I was a junior in high school, sophomore, junior. And that was my super digging phase into hip hop. And my fandom for Wu-Tang was at an all-time high. I'm checking for every solo release by every Wu-Tang member. And I remember being really excited for this album. And looking back now, it's pretty incredible the producers that he has on this. He's got J Dilla, he's got
MF
Pete
Doom.
Rock, MF Doom.
Just Blaze.
Just Blaze.
Just Blaze was my favorite producer in high school. I loved his up-tempo, just like really head-knocking stuff.
So looking back at it now, I'm like, wow, this is an incredible album to put together in 2006.
Is it too long?
Yeah, after I listened to this maybe 3 or 4 times through this week, by that third listen, I was like, okay, he could have shaved a couple of songs off of this, and I would have been totally fine.
What's weird is that it's 25 tracks, but it's not any longer than, say, a 13-track album. Mm-hmm. So it's just a lot
There's a lot of skits.
There's a lot of skits. There's a lot of short songs on there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think overall the whole album, it started off really high tempo, mm-hmm. and then it kind of started to fall down and then coast. Mm-hmm. And it was fine. But just the energy towards the end wasn't as high as it was at first.
Right.
But from the first couple tracks, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I love this album, even when it first came out. And I think this came out a couple months after J Dilla had passed away. So at that point, I was really getting into Dilla. I got into Dilla a little bit before he passed away. And then when he died, I really dug into his history and his discography and who he's produced for. And he's incredible. And to hear Dilla on this album, Ghostface pulls a couple of the songs from Dilla's Donuts album.
Mm-hmm. I think Donuts came out afterwards.
Yeah. And yeah, I love the production on this album. I think it fits Ghostface perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of different artists, a lot of different producers that are on here. But like it all goes very well.
Whoever executive produced this album did a great job. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could probably look that up, but yeah, it sounds incredible. But yeah, let's get into the first track. It starts off with a skit with the intro.
Yeah, didn't collect
which we don't really need to get into. I mean, it kind of just sets you up for the album, I guess.
Yeah, it just kind of goes in. But Shaky Dog. What did you think? I'm curious. What did you think of the? First off, what did you think of the beat of this song?
I like this beat. I think it's very up tempo. It's hard. It's definitely like I compare it to an opening like a crazy opening scene to a movie, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Did it sound familiar to you?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No? Dude, immediately when I heard that track, so the cover is from Love is Blue by Johnny Johnson and his Bandwagon.
Okay.
So Below the Heavens, the first song has the same sample.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, shit.
I was hoping you would have caught that.
Damn. All right.
It's the same beat. So yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I heard that immediately. I was like, oh, I wonder how Matt's gonna think about this track. But yeah, the track is cool. He's just starts you off into a story.
Yeah.
Of this deal that's gonna go bad, or this robbery that's about to go wrong. So it's just from the jump, like he's with this dude Frank. They're in a car, and it's almost like kind of talking shit to him, like kind of. He makes a Three Stooges reference.
Right. Yeah.
But then they go up there and he's like, look, man, these guys are loaded. What you're going to do is I'm going to knock on the door. You're going to hold the gun to my head. When they open, we're just going to fall in and make it look like a setup. And then we're just going to go in after that. So I just thought that it's like, that's actually a very interesting way of like sticking people up.
Yeah.
But,
It's creative.
It's very creative.
It's great writing.
Excellent.
Not
writing.
even songwriting, just story writing, storytelling in general.
And he does it in a great way where it's not there's not a bunch of fluff in there. His storytelling is very straight to the point and very descriptive.
His attention to detail brings you there. It's almost like you're watching a movie inside your head. Mm-hmm. He points out little details. He might point something out that's on the table, and it brings you there to that scene.
Yeah, you're like, oh, why is he bringing up the table? It must be important. But like, he brings up a dog, a pit that's there, and it's like, oh shit, this pit's about to go off. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you listen to the song.
He puts his Tarantino hat on for this album. I feel like he takes you all over the place. He's telling a story, and you're going in and out of the story as well.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Frank gets hit towards the end.
Yep.
But it also the song ends with a to be continued. Mm-hmm. And I may have to ask this early, was the last track the continuation of this song?
I don't know. I didn't put that together. It could be. It
doesn't seem like it, but I just wanted to see if like that was
maybe that could be the beginning of them, their story as criminals, and then this is the track. Shaky Dog is how their story ends, basically. So he's starting you off at the end.
Could be. And
much like a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, and by the way, the Shaky Dog comes from, I think, in reference to Frank, because he had the bigger piece on him, but he's kind of being a little bitch in the whole thing.
He's being shaky.
He's being shaky. So it's kind of reference to
And then
Frank.
That moves us into Killah.
So, I mean, the whole point of that first song was they were robbing for cocaine, whatever else they could get. Mm-hmm. And then so as we go into the next track of Killah, which is a very funky beat, super funky, I love it. It's just one of those like you're knocking your head, and like how they kind of sing together at the end or towards the song too. Features Raekwon.
Raekwon and Ghostface are like peanut butter and jelly. Mm-hmm. They've been working together for so long. I mean, even on Ghostface's first solo album, Iron Man, Raekwon's on the cover. Then you got Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links.
He was on about 6 of those tracks.
Yeah, so they're a tandem. Their chemistry together is incredible. So anytime Raekwon's on a track with Ghostface, it's gonna be a great track.
So this album is, as we go into Killah, this album has a lot to do. I mean, it's called Fishscale, which I believe is a high grade of cocaine. Mm-hmm. It's a high grade.
It's
of cocaine
raps.
Yeah.
Which, this may have been the end of the height of cocaine raps. Cocaine raps were big in the 90s, late 90s. Mm-hmm. They kind of fell off. And then, of course, Ghostface and Raekwon kept that going. And then now starting in 2017, we've had a resurgence of coke raps with Griselda, with Conway the Machine, and Benway, Benny the Butcher, and Fly God.
Yeah. Well, the album just has a lot to do with the whole culture of it. So, the Stash House,
West Side Gun.
West Side Gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they as a group have brought back coke raps to the forefront of hip hop. Their group is extremely popular right now, and they're carrying that torch on from Raekwon and Ghostface. And Raekwon even said that he was on stage with them probably 3 years ago and passed the torch to them. They're kind of like the new wu-tang.
Okay. Yeah, so as I was saying, like, this whole album just has to do with the culture of, of selling cocaine, just being in the drug game and everything, from being in the Stash House.
It's very reminiscent of a mafia movie.
Right. So you're going to hear a lot of kilos, a lot of stash houses, a lot of robberies. And there's a couple of other odd and end turns that happen in the album, but that's basically what this track is all about.
Yeah.
So, but he's just talking about the power that you have with Kilo.
Yeah.
If you got the kilo, you got the panties, you got the candies, you have resources, you have it.
Yeah. I want to say some lines that really are great coke rap lines.
Please do.
He says, a kilo is 1,000 grams, beige, gold, brown, dirty, fluffy, tan. Extract oil cut from Cuban plants. The chemist is brolic Pyrex scholars. Professors at war over raw, killing partners for $1 million. And I felt as if those lines perfectly set up the picture for what the album is kind of about. Not only the song, but the whole album, Fishscale. We're cutting raw cocaine and we're making money off of it. People are stabbing each other in the back. There's people killing each other and lying and cheating. And there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, and another part too is that he does a really good job throughout this album of not just portraying this lavish lifestyle of being in the coke game, but also he talks a lot about paranoia. In other tracks, he's talking about keep an eye on that truck outside. Make sure you check everyone for wires. But, in the beginning of this song, you get a feel for the paranoia. So I like how he covers a lot of different bases instead of just, a lot of artists coming out and just like, yeah, man, I got this, I got that, it ain't no worries. But it kind of shows some form of vulnerability that comes with being in here instead of just being 100% awesome. So, yeah, cool track. I like it.
That leads into the Champ.
The Champ.
Produced by Just Blaze.
Just Blaze was, I said in the beginning, but he was definitely my favorite back in high school because I can't think of a single beat that he's created that I'm like, meh, I ain't feeling that.
Right.
So everything is just, it gets your head bumping. It makes you want to rap. And then it's just a good party.
What are you dropping your 16 on us, bro?
Shit, man, I might have to bootleg all these instrumentals and start dropping something. But I love Just Blaze. Work with a lot of other artists too. But yeah, I mean, it's super up tempo, dope beat. I like some of the in this track, using the term, he's just hip hop and he's just coming out doing his thing. One of my favorite lines is rip your guts out like a hysterectomy when it comes to just demolishing somebody.
Yeah, he's got some very creative and imaginative lines in this song. Another lines that I like is, who wants to battle the dawn? I'm James Bond in the octagon with 2 razors. Bet y'all didn't know I had a fake arm. I lost it wild and raw before rap. I was getting it on. I just love those lines of, bringing references from James Bond and, making gadgets out of 2 razors and, fucking someone up.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if The Champ is my favorite track on the album.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it definitely gets you hype.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. Like, it might be my favorite track, but I'm not sure yet. Like, it's just such a cool track.
Yeah. It's up there for sure.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, the next one, he has a lot of skits during this album. So, Major Operation is just kind of a setup for the next track. It just, it's the whole Wu-Tang Clan as the major operation coming in for 9 Milli Bros, track number 6. And, again, like, it's not, at least what I got out of it is not a whole lot going on. All their verses are super short, but they're just going in and, just brothers coming together for a track and doing something.
Yeah, and from what I read, this was the first time all members of Wu-Tang were on the same track since their album Eight Diagrams, the song on there. So I think it had been a little bit before they had all been on a song together with ODB. So yeah, it's a great track. I mean, it's classic Wu-Tang.
I'm trying to remember when ODB passed away. That's something I should have looked up.
I think it was around this time, to be honest.
Yeah, should have been pretty soon after that. But yeah, I like the beat to it. I think that was...
He passed away in 2004, so this came out 2 years after he passed away.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So...
but yeah, I love this song. It's classic Wu-Tang. It's produced by... I think it's produced by MF Doom. Yeah. It's an MF Doom beat.
My guess is going to be RZA, but...
Yeah, I know. At first I thought it was RZA as well, because how could you not have a RZA beat on this album? But there's actually not. I was kind of shocked by that. But who would have thought that MF Doom and Wu-Tang would be a pairing?
It's a good pairing.
Yeah, it's a great pairing. I just never would have thought of that, because if you hear from 2002 when Operation Doomsday comes out, I don't think if you listen to that, I don't know if you would say, oh, I got to hear Wu-Tang over these beats. Because they definitely rap about totally different things. MF Doom's not a coke rapper. He raps about much more esoteric things, and he's more about comic books and things of that nature. So
making him sound like a nerd.
He is kind of a nerd. Yeah.
No, I know, but like he's just being like,
But
he's cool.
No, Wu-Tang. I think Wu-Tang respected MF Doom's ability on the mic and as a producer.
Yeah, he gets in on a couple tracks here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and aside from the cocaine raps and everything, he does deep dig into love interests and a couple other things, as we see on the next track, Beauty Jackson.
Produced by Dilla.
Yeah. And this one was a cool song because I get this like New York feel where it's just you're walking up to the bus stop, it's a rainy day, it's nighttime, and you walk up and there's this girl, you're like, hey, wow, she looks great, let me go spit some game. So you start spitting game at her, and then she's about to get on the bus, you're trying to seal the deal, but then your gun falls out, and she's like, nah, I'm gone. So that's basically what the song is, but it was just so cool. You have to listen to the song. I'm not going to do it justice, but just the way that he tells this story in a minute and 30 seconds or so, and you get all this descriptive stuff, or just the way that he sets it up, it makes you fill in with fillers that don't need to be there.
He's got some great lines. He says, Ghost, if you'd like to, mind if I invite you over for some red wine, nice berry white, huh? She pulled out a cigarette. Hun, here's a lighter. Her voice was a slow jam, full length, white mink, hella fine with a beauty mark on her right cheek. When she spoke, her smoke floated when it left her throat. So exactly what you said, a lot of this album is cocaine raps, but as much as there's cocaine raps, Ghostface is still a poet.
Yeah.
He still gives you really imaginative and creative lines that have a lot of soul in them, and they paint a really great picture, and it really brings you into his lyrics.
And like I was saying, it keeps you so interested that you just start adding in your own things. I added in the
and I get a little bit
day.
of like film noir.
Yes, very noir. That's I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
same thing. So, but it's cool. I mean, and then the next track, Heart Streets, it's like some girl that he's just basically trolling. So she pulls up on him asking for directions.
Oh, man. But I don't remember the skit from when I first heard this album. I think I skipped all the skits when I was in high school. I was like, I just want the tracks. But listening to it now, I was dying. It was a really funny skit.
Fucking pervert. So I just like that throwing it. Yeah. Just listen to the track. It's pretty funny. So, but the directions that he gives her aren't quite to where she wants to go. It's just towards sex and everything. Like, go up Hershey Highway and do this. So, but Columbus Exchange / Crack Spot. Cool song. Cool track.
Yeah, I liked it. There's one word that I have to describe Ghostface in a lot of these songs is immaculate.
All right.
I think that's one word that comes to mind to describe his lyricism. It's just immaculate storytelling.
This one, they're getting the cocaine ready. You have a dude that comes in to check it out, and he gets knocked out off of it. And they're like, "Yo, we just tried this shit, and we're straight. So go get his girl. So she knows what's going on." Then she comes in and she's just laughing at him. So, but there's just this paranoia of like, we don't know what's wrong with him, but we're fine. And this is where I mentioned earlier where they start talking about paranoia, but they're also talking about, hey, go, don't give anyone a deal that comes in here. If someone comes in here, we charge them full price unless they buy a lot, then you can cut them a break. But you keep an eye on that Verizon truck because I don't trust them and they've been out there for a little bit. And that person, don't let them in if they're wearing shorts or something. It was something like that.
Right.
Could have gotten a little bit wrong. But, check them for wires. I want these people checked out. But then, then people kind of talking about the real aspects of it. People coming in trying to pawn off their PlayStation 2s and their Xboxes, trying to get some of this hit. So it was just kind of giving you a little bit of insight on the game and everything. Mm-hmm. And I think he does a great job of giving you enough, probably not accurately 100% portraying it, but enough to where you can start using your imagination and have a relative idea of what it could be like from a movie perspective. Yeah. So, that was cool.
Yeah, dope track. And then after that, we go into Ragu.
Ragu was an acronym, but I didn't see it mentioned in the song. And I was really curious about that.
Do you want to know what it stands for?
Yeah.
So I can help you out with that.
Please. Help me.
It stands for Ray and Ghost United.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're a partnership. They're a duo. And Pete Rock produced this one.
Pete Rock is another solid person.
Yeah.
Another solid producer.
I mean, the only thing they're missing is a Premiere beat.
Ooh.
If they got Premiere on this, woo. And RZA. If they got Premiere and RZA, damn, that might be on paper one of the best production lists that you could come up with.
Yeah, that definitely would have turned some heads. The Ragu was interesting because they share this Ghostface and Raekwon, they share this relationship where a code is being enforced while another code is broken. Mm-hmm. So they're at the stash spot, they're getting things ready. There's a fight that breaks out downtown. Homie got stabbed. Raekwon wants to go out and take care of it, but he's like, I can't because I hear he's related to you. And then that's when the song transitions over to Ghostface. And he's like, yo, man, like he's related to me, but not like that. It's just this guy I've known for 18 years. But it sounds like Ghostface has also had to tune this same person up a few times because dude robbed Ghostface and another incident happened later on, but where he had to knock his teeth out basically. Yeah. So, but
yeah, it's another cool like storytelling track of Raekwon and Ghostface telling both of their sides to the story.
And then just displaying this respect that they have for each other of like, yo, man, like this dude really fucked up, but I respect you. And so I can't take care of it. But Ghost basically saying like, I totally get you and I'll handle this. I'll do something about this.
Yeah, totally.
So, and then that's kind of it's a good segue into the next track. And I'm just now realizing this because the next track and the next song, Badmouth Kid, if we're gonna set it up, it sounds like he's kind of with this woman who has a kid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's at her house chilling and her kid's there.
He's being a shithead.
Yeah, and he's just fucking with the kid.
Mm-hmm. But then the kids tell him like eat a dick and like to fuck off, stuff like that. But then as we get into Whip You with a Strap, which is another Jay Dilla production.
Yeah, it's a heartfelt track from Ghostface. He definitely puts on his poetry hat and reminisces about how he grew up and how he was raised from where he's from. And it's a great track to listen to. if all the cocaine raps put you off and you're not really into that, definitely at least listen to this song.
This and a couple other ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like this song is sampled quite a bit. So it contains a sample of To the Other Man by Luther Ingram. And it's also on Jay Dilla's Donuts.
Yeah.
And so I've listened to Donuts quite a bit. And so I was like, oh, this is Jay. I know this song. This is Jay Dilla. So, but I didn't realize that, yeah, you can use my track for your album as well, too. But Whip You With the Strap, he basically just goes, and being black, it makes me think of black culture because we really do get whooped on if we fuck up. Mom threatening to come out to school and whoop us in front of everybody if we act up. But, he's basically talking about how kids are rewarded these days for bad behavior instead of being set straight. And, there were kind of I remember I wrote down that I had some mixed ideas about this track. That I'd have to think about it again. But, to kind of, anyway, to move from that, like it made me think of 2 tracks ago, Ragu, where this kid, they should have whipped him with the strap when he was bad. And he's out here acting up, and even people that he's rocked with for 18 years, Ghostface Killah, it's like he just wasn't raised right. And so it kind of made me think that all 3 of those tracks are kind of related.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think it's a cool track for Ghostface to, he's being a little, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but, he's giving up a part of himself. If he's being truthful, if he's really speaking about himself and how, he was parented. But some of the lines that I like is, I'm missing all the loop strings going in the wrong holes. It feels like I'm wobbling, looking at all these afros. As soon as I thought I was good, the joke's on me. I heard a voice get in the room. I get angry, stomp my feet, catch a tantrum, spit, scream, fuck that. Mama shake me real hard, then get the big gat. That's called the belt. Help me as I yelled. He really brings you in to the picture that he's painting. Like you really feel like you're in the room with him. And
especially if I can remember a setting. I can't remember my age, but I was in second. If I wasn't in second grade, no, I was in third grade. I was in third grade, and I remember, I was mouthing off to my mom. She's like, come to the room. She got you go into the room, close the door. She gets the belt out of the drawer, and it's game time after that. Yeah. And so when he was talking about that, I was like, oh shit, I remember that. Yeah. So,
so maybe it brings back some bad memories.
It brings back some memories, but I mean, and I was checking my notes and I remembered where, the mixed ideas come from. And, in one of the lyrics, he talks about how, getting whooped for wetting the bed, things like that. So, I mean, I'm not advocating for, I guess, corporal punishment of children. But I mean, I definitely see, and this is coming from my own childhood, where I guess it's to be expected if you act up, if you disrespect an adult, that you would get beat for it. But I definitely would not condone, wetting the bed and beating someone for that. Like that's where it crosses the line. And I said, and I'll repeat again, I'm not advocating for corporal punishment. But it absolutely draws a line when there's something that's out of your control.
Right.
Because I work with kids that wet the bed. And it's like, imagine hitting this autistic kid because of something that he has no control over.
Yeah.
And Matthew, I don't know if you know this, but it's not correlation equals causation, of course. But a lot of the times, wetting the bed is a sign of sexual abuse too. So that's another reason, knowing that now, working with kids, I would never definitely advocate for beating someone just for wetting the bed. You're just frustrated and you're taking it out on your kid at that point. Yeah. So, but anyways, as we were talking, this album, it does have a lot of drug reference and whatever else, but there's a lot of deep tracks such as Whip You With the Strap and track 13, Back Like That.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you mentioned this in the beginning of the podcast, where he starts off on a really high tempo note and it kind of dips down a little bit. And I think that starts with Whip You With the Strap and then goes into Back Like That, which is more of an R&B type track.
Right.
It's a little bit slower and a little bit mellow. It's got Neo featured on it. And it's a great song. And from looking at it, it's Ghostface's highest charting song he's ever put out.
Second single, too, off the album.
Yep.
And I don't know, like I kind of had mixed things on it. I kind of like listening to this album objectively, so like not knowing that it was his top song or anything else. So when I first heard it, because I remember in high school when Neo got big, I didn't like him at all. There wasn't a single track. You know, I think he does "You Should Let Me Love You," and I never liked that song. I never liked any of his singles. So I actually didn't like this track, but I respected the message in it of, you know, it made me think of that girl that keeps going back to dude. And he's, you know, maybe this is a close friend of Ghostface Killah's where he's just like, I would never hit you or anything like that. I'm not like that. But I do want to bark you out. I do want to, what was it he said? And burn her car. So, but like, it sounds like he has a history of setting this dude straight of like, yo, man, quit being a dick and clean your act up.
Yeah, it's a cool song. And Ghostface, I think he does R&B really well. Ghost Dini, which is his R&B persona. Not the next album. The album after that he puts out is called Ghost Dini, The Wizard of Poetry, where it's basically just a whole R&B album. Where he's rapping, he does a little bit of singing, but it's basically a whole album of Back Like That songs. And he does it really well, I think.
I mean, from the singing that he does in this album, I'm really curious to take a listen to that.
You should.
I usually I aim to listen to other albums of the same artist before we do our pod. So he mentioned Special Clientele quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I listened to that album, and it really flowed together really well. And I really liked Supreme Clientele. Yeah. My bad. Thank you. And so, but yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look for that R&B one, because from his singing in this one, I'm like, I'm not too inclined to check it. But I feel like the way that he pulls it off in this album, it's like he knows he's not a great singer. He can hold notes, but it's like he's having fun with it in the song.
It's a little tongue in cheek for him. He's not trying to be Neo.
No, not at all.
You know, he's adding his own flavor onto it.
And so, Be Easy, track 14. This is number 14 out of 25. This is a long album. But you know, this is one of the ones where there's not a lot of content in there. It's just kind of this going in on fake people. It's a Pete Rock production.
Yeah, and this kind of brings you back up in terms of tempo. It's produced by Pete Rock. It's a hype track. A lot of like chanting and this song, I think, was made for live performances. This is a great song that, you know, if you get everyone in the crowd chanting the chorus.
That'd be so sick.
Yeah.
And they did a remix with Ice Cube that was also on the album, or not.
Yeah, and Ice
Cube
album. kills his verse on that.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. So, and then followed by the other one, Clips of Doom. There's not really much that I took from this song either, but.
He's just spitting on this one. Obviously, it's produced by MF Doom. It's a great beat.
It's a cool beat.
Yeah.
Dope beat.
One of the lines that I really liked in this is, blow a hockey puck hole in the back of your spine. She put 2 cut-up mirrors in the place of your eyes. So when the cops look, they see themselves. They all gonna die. It's the tale of Crips and Bloods. Pimps and thugs, get your face bashed in on the concrete rug. Those are just crazy lines. Like, he's just going in.
Yeah, that's
some wild shit.
Damn. Yeah. But then Jellyfish, which is another, he's got a lot of MF Doom production songs.
They were rumored to put out an album shortly after this.
It never happened.
And it's been a rumor since then. You know, and it gets teased every now and then. Either Doom or Ghostface will tease it, but yeah, they just haven't dropped it yet, and everyone's waiting for it because from this album, they are a great tandem together. And I think MF Doom rapping next to Ghostface would be just as great.
It'd be cool. I'd like to see MF Doom feed off of that energy, and kind of shake a little bit of the monotone. That's the only issue. I like MF Doom, but that's like the only thing with him is I can only do so much of his voice. I really respect the energy. Yeah, we're talking about Jellyfish, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on Jellyfish.
I was like, wait, because they're both pretty spot. Anyways,
And it features Capadonna.
And his unit, Theodore unit, which is
Yeah.
his group. I actually really like this song a lot in the sense of it's giving girls props, like their partners props. It's not some like hood rat that they picked up or anything like that. And, this is another one of those albums where you don't hear or see a lot of like fuck women, they're bitches.
Right. Yeah. I don't think
uplifting.
Ghostface has ever really been like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he definitely talks about women, and he'll be, talking about, having sex with them or, things of that nature, but he's not too misogynistic.
No. Yeah. Not at all. But yeah, I like this song. It's just a good shout out to the girls out there that are supporting them and with them. And
so the next song after Jellyfish goes into Dogs of War.
It's kind of cool because he's rapping with his son on this one.
Yeah, super dope.
Super cool.
Son of God.
Sun God.
Sun God.
And, they're just talking about being in the rap game. I've had to make sure that I was very clear about my thoughts that I put down because one of, the lines that Ghostface goes into is running trains till the condom pops. And making clear that it's not with his son, I hope, in doing these things. So, because he's talking about in his rap how like it's a family thing, doing this, and that, but it's like really not just running trains, but doing everything else.
Yeah.
And, but when he brought that up, I was like, oh man, you got your son involved in that though? Like, I'm not trying to run train with my brother, with my son.
Yeah.
Uncle,
I mean,
like,
even your friend. I don't know if I'm running a train with my friend either.
No.
Yeah.
But if they're both female, you're probably looking into it. So
we can get into gender biases and stereotypes and double standards.
You just went into. I was clarifying what you were saying. So, but that's Dogs of War. I have to say, like these last couple tracks, they're shorter, not much in them. Same with Barbershop. Barbershop was funny just because he's like, hey, baby, you better not fuck my shit up. Yeah. And then he fucks your shit up. So, like, I would be pretty pissed off. Because he was saying, like, yo, I'm already losing hair at the top, so don't mess my sides up.
Yeah.
And then, basically, you probably have to go bald at that point if you fuck the sides up.
Yeah, you just made me think of this. I think this album would be a really fun album to be a fly on the wall while it was being made.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see the process of Ghost coming up with these skits and some of these songs and these lyrics. I feel like it would be a great time to hang out in the studio while that was happening.
I agree. Yeah. I would agree. I mean, you kind of wonder, like, why did you think of that?
Yeah.
And where'd you come up
where did
with
that come? Maybe it came from like a conversation he's having with one of his buddies in the studio, and they're like, oh shit, we should make that into a skit.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the barbershop is a big thing. That's where you get your gossip. That's where you get looking good and everything. So, I mean, it's just kind of a spin on that where, hey, man, you fucked up last time. I'm giving you another shot. But, so I like it. But, yeah, and then, we kind of take a step away from not, the jokes and everything, but going back into, we took a break from the cocaine raps. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting back in.
Yeah.
So, Miss Sweetwater, he's woken up by a chauffeur. Hey, the girl's missing. The keys to the stash spot are missing. Put two and two together, like, you need to go do something. Which leads then into Big Girl, which kind of, I guess, now that I think about it, that doesn't really mesh too well together.
With the skit?
With the skit, because first it's like, hey, maybe this is like kind of radio-esque where it's like you're tuning into different things. Mm-hmm. Because in the next track, we'll go into the next track and then come back around to Miss Sweetwater. But Big Girl kind of, I liked this song a lot too because it goes, it's pretty deep and it references, as I mentioned before, he mentions a lot of cocaine raps, but then also goes vulnerable by saying like, I'm paranoid, this and that, but then also running into people that like, man, I don't really want to fuck their life up at all.
Right.
And this is where Big Girl comes in because...
Yeah, Big Girl is an interesting song. it's definitely a coke song. It's about girls who do lots of coke and what happens when they do it, and he paints a very vivid picture of it, and they have money. But then Ghost goes when he finishes the song by saying he doesn't think it's good for the girls to be doing so much coke, and he even applies that to himself. He's like, I shouldn't be doing coke.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that person that, like, you know, when you're younger and like, hey man, you smoke weed, and you're like, no, and like, oh, that's good on you, man, you need to keep that up, don't be like me. It kind of made me think of that scenario,
right?
Because you know, he walks in, he sees these girls, and I like the phrase, yeah, you polish helmets. And they're just like, fuck you. And so, you know, so then they start doing some coke or whatever, but he sees it like they have kind of a bright future. They're rich. They have a lot of things going for them.
They're educated.
Yeah. And it's like, yo, this is cool for now, but don't get so caught up in it to where you throw your life away. Like, I hope you guys get that straight. But he also takes like that, like, father figure kind
Big
of
brother
role player, role model-esque person of like, yeah, like if these were my girls, I'd be, you know, reading them stories. I'd be giving them game and like encouraging them to, you know, not only like he says find a prince, but I like because it's not only finding someone that is worth your while and that has standards and everything, but also encouraging them to, I want you to go to school. And, you know, granted, he says like become a secretary, become a librarian. But I kind of read into the different job things that he was posting as saying like become self-sufficient and independent, you know, so make something of your life. Don't let this weigh you down, and make the best of your life and everything.
Right. Yeah, it's a cool song. I liked it. I really like the beat as well. It definitely fits onto this album, even if it not necessarily there's a narrative that it fits into, but in terms of the feel of it and talking about coke and, you know, maybe understanding the downsides to it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, he kind of gets off of that one-way street that you would expect from like a 50 Cent album where it's like, yeah, I do this and that, and I'm a badass. It's like, yeah, man, like I'm paranoid, but then also I'm giving it to people that I don't want to fuck their life up. Like, I'm really just in there for my
he has morals.
His morals.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that a lot throughout this album. So I really appreciate the different shades and the different aspects of the cocaine.
Yeah.
Rose.
And he does show some of his other moral standpoints when he talks about on the previous track, what was it, about defending women. Back Like That. You know, where he's defending women and he's against people abusing women, like other men abusing women, and
right, he'll tune that person up. He's taking a
stance for women.
Yeah, he's very pro woman. It's like you don't have to be. I don't know if people look at Ghostface as this hardcore rapper or whatever else, but like he's definitely not that part of the image. Like there's a lot of shady or sketch stuff that we would feel uncomfortable doing. But he touches on a lot of light stuff too, and different shades of it, and so I like. So, but you know, and then tying that back to the skit beforehand. With all that said, that's why I'm like, oh, now that I think about it, it doesn't really tie in with that song. Right. But then it doesn't come up again later though too. Of like, okay, she took your stuff and she's gone. So I don't know if it's just kind of touching on. Hey, when you have this stash spot, things like this happen where you can be taken advantage of. Maybe that's the way I should be looking at it instead of looking at it as in this album as a sequence, because it's not. Obviously, it's not a sequence. So that's just maybe just a part of the game that happens.
Right.
So I think I just answered my own question and solved my own mystery. So, Underwater, Matthew. What are your...
Underwater. This is the classic esoteric Ghostface song. Ghostface is known, especially earlier in his career, of having these lyrics that don't really make sense to anyone. And I think Ghostface knows that, but they're dope raps and people just go along with it. I didn't really understand Underwater. It's pretty abstract. He's rapping about being underwater, and there's other sea-related things, and he's mentioning Noah's Ark, he's mentioning Titanic, he mentioned SpongeBob. And he also brings in religion to it. he brings in the Quran, and he brings in other religious aspects that have to do with water. But if you go back to like Iron Man and Supreme Clientele and some of these other Ghostface albums, and you try to decipher some of his lyrics, you're not going to understand what he's talking about. And not on every song, but on some of the songs, you're like, what the hell is Ghost saying? And I feel like on this album, he's done much better at being more cohesive and having a more straightforward approach to his lyrics. But this song is definitely reminiscent of some of his older work.
Yeah, when I hear this one, like definitely the underwater makes me think of a struggle. So like he's having this, like I can't kind of, I don't know if you listen to Dr. Dre and Compton, but like there's Deep Water on that track where, one of the Kendrick Lamar gets pushed into the water and is struggling. So I feel like it has to do with some type of a life struggle, but then also being pulled and in different directions by different influences. So he mentions a mermaid. And so you think of back, I don't know if that goes back to the Odyssey and the Iliad with sirens and everything of how they lure sailors out and then they fuck them up. They fuck their ships up. But it kind of made me think of that, like, okay, like all these, you're underwater, you're already struggling, you're being pulled by these different influences, women included, trying to find your way around and swimming over here, trying to get away from this. So I think we're on the same page. I didn't really have a clear cut thing. I know I say a lot that I don't like abstract things, but I do like this one, maybe because like it's a little bit easier for me to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. I didn't think of that before, of underwater representing a struggle that he's talking about.
Yeah. So that was Underwater. I put, my notes, I was like, I need to listen to this a couple more times to really get a straightforward response. But I feel like I have the basic idea of it. But in terms of like wanting to be a perfectionist and really knowing my craft, I wanted to listen to it a little bit more. Then there's the Iron Man Takeover. It's just a brief skit. And then we have Mama. Mama was a cool track.
Yeah, it was. And I think this is one of the tracks that I was referencing before with Big Girl, where he really speaks up for women in terms of struggle and dealing with abusive men and abusive fathers, husbands. It's a very heartfelt track.
It is, and he covers a lot of bases in this track. So, in the first verse, he's talking about a mother. It's not your fault that you had issues and you had struggles. Your father was an alcoholic, and it just didn't set you up right. The second verse talks about a mother with kids that, and this, I think this goes back to another track too. Can't remember off the top, but like this, because there's definitely, I want to say like a negative connotation towards women with kids that are single mothers. It's like damaged goods that, like we're not going to date you. I don't want to, as men don't want to date these women because they don't want to take on these added responsibilities. Right. And then also just all around people labeling them as like, oh, well, their thing didn't work out. Now they have these kids. I don't want to have to deal with this family and get involved with that. So there's a lot of things that come with it. Not saying that I agree with that. I feel like that's the overall picture. But I mean, the way that Ghost goes at it is like, I don't really care what your background is or anything. I'm going to help you take care of these kids. They're going to have Nickelodeon. Your bills are going to be paid. Right. Take the Benz out and pay these bills. Yeah. Like, I got you.
He's not afraid to be that person to take on that responsibility.
Right.
He accepts it.
He accepts it. He's down to take he's down for the cause and very non-judgmental and just accepting her for who she is. And, the third verse goes into this girl that's brought up in this broken home and just this message of, you got to stay strong and muscle through this and everything. It's really shitty right now, but it'll work out in the end. Right. And so it's just kind of like mama. Mama's a slang term for, a girl, baby's mama, or anything like that. And basically, with that umbrella for all the different types of women that it addresses of just, hey, like, I got you, or it's not your fault. It's not just, you have support, everything like that. So very pro women. I think it's a cool track. I fucked with it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's a great track.
It's a great track. And number 24, the last track.
We go into
Three Bricks.
Three Bricks,
which has a feature from Biggie. I
Yep.
believe Niggas Bleed, which is one of my favorite songs by him. I have to say that track, and then there's a track by Big L, where, The Heist, where they're just talking about, they're just this great storytelling of what's going on. And like you're glued to your earbuds because you're not glued to the screen, right. But you're glued to your earbuds like, damn, what the hell is going to happen next? Yep. And so...
And Biggie definitely fits in with Ghostface in terms of storytelling. Biggie's another one of those legendary storytellers.
Right.
And it's great to hear his voice next to Ghostface. I think they sound great together. It's a great track. It's awesome how imaginative and creative they can get with their stories. You know, even if it is about violence or criminal activity, they're almost, I mean, they might as well be screenwriters. They might as well write movie scripts.
I agree.
With what they're doing.
I agree.
And I'm surprised that Ghostface hasn't written movies. I feel as if he should. RZA has. And Ghostface has just as much as an ability to write as anyone else.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, he definitely needs to step that part of his game up. And I mean that in a good way of like, yeah, man, get into that stuff, get deeper in.
Take the baton from Ice Cube and run with it and take on getting into the movie scene, because I think he could. Maybe he doesn't want to. He's still putting out albums. He just dropped a few albums.
Dude's 50.
Yeah, it's as if he's still very passionate about hip hop and rapping and producing and putting out projects.
So, I mean, we talked about this a couple pods ago. It got brought up in Bush. You know, when you start reaching that 40 years mark, and he's in his 50s, this guy's going to be 60 in 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you stay relevant in this game? And we've explored different avenues. When we do 444, we'll definitely talk about that one. We've talked about Eminem and how it sounds like he's kind of had a brief struggle of acclimating to being an older rapper in a new game. Right. But Ghostface, how does he stay relevant?
I think he should keep doing what he's doing if he's going to stick to making music. I think he's on the right track with the last few albums that he's done. They're solid projects, and he's done different things. Like the album he did with Adrian Young, which is 12 Reasons to Die, is definitely more of that film noir storytelling. It continues that, but it's very focused. The album he did with Bad Bad Not Good it's a different sounding album. So I think him doing these projects, these collaborative projects with other artists, is helping him stay relevant because they're involved in other genres as well. So it pulls him into other arenas where he can be creative. And it's not just the boom bap, rapping that he came up with, which I think works really well for Ghostface. Now, if he wants to stay relevant in other ways, I think movies and film or TV shows or a Netflix series, something like that, is somewhere where I think Ghostface could really shine.
It'd be cool to see him and like MF Doom do some like superhero thing on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't. Even if they're not starring in it, just writing it. They have the ability, and maybe they produce the music behind it. But
oh yeah, that'd be dope as shit.
Yeah. So. I guess maybe someone's just got to give them enough money to do it. Netflix has got to put up the bag, and I'm sure they can make it happen.
Yeah, but yeah, man. Overall, I have to say one of my favorite things about this pod is that it makes me venture out and discover new art. Not only new artists, but artists that I've only heard very.
So you hadn't heard this album before, right?
No, I hadn't listened.
Have
to
you
this
heard some of the
before.
songs? Like, were any of them familiar?
No, I've heard. I mean, I've listened to Ghostface. I'm familiar with some of his songs, not any from this album. Though.
Okay.
And so, kind of looking. I feel like one of the, I won't say gifts or anything, but one of the things I can bring to this pod is that and not hearing some of these albums, it's like a fresh take of like, okay, this is my first time listening to it. Instead of like, if you give me an album that, if you give me like a Lil Jon album, which I've never listened to all the way through, but I remember that era very vividly. I'm like, nah, I'm not really inclined to do that album, but this is like something that's been around for a long time, and I can give my fresh take on it.
Especially like you said, who Ghostface is.
Yeah.
His legacy, but to sit down and actually really study one of his albums brings him to a new light for you.
Definitely. So, this definitely has me wanting to go check out other projects. And it also makes me want to revisit, because I like Wu-Tang Clan. I remember when I first got into them, but it makes you want to go back and revisit those because you have a different perspective and a different light about it. So I was like, man, I always think of Method Man when I think of humor and charisma and everything. Was like, okay, Ghostface definitely brings stuff to the table. What's some stuff in those albums that I missed? Because obviously, as we do these pods, I'm have a different perspective of really combing through things and looking for things. Yeah. And so I need to see what I missed.
And so after you listen to this album, we did mention this a little bit at the beginning of the pod that, it is a long album. There's 24 tracks, 25. There's some skits thrown in there. But if you were to put this out today, let's say you're the executive producer, which tracks are you telling Ghostface to take out to slim this album down a bit? Because I'm assuming that we both agree that we would slim this down a bit.
Man, yeah, that's a hard question because I feel like there's so many, in terms of content, there's so many things in here that, how do I say this? So you look at the album cover and you see him, you see some people in the background, and it's like, okay, maybe what are someone's thoughts when they see this? Fishscale. What the hell is Fishscale? He's obviously not fishing. So what does that mean? Yeah. Oh, that's cocaine. Is this going to be a heavily drug reference album? I don't know if I want to listen to that. I don't do these things. So I feel like there's a lot of things in here that keep that umbrella of touching on all bases of cocaine, like we mentioned before, whether if it's the paranoia, whether if it's how it impacts others, whether if it's, what he does to maintain the game, the benefits that he gets from it. There's a lot of those that need to stay in. And also like the robberies and the crime that may potentially come with it. Yeah. So it's hard. I think if I were to cut it down, I would cut out some tracks that don't necessarily have anything to do with any theme. So let's say there's 5 themes in the album. For example, the first one that comes to mind is 9 Milli Bros. I would probably cut that one out because they're just going in. The verses everyone's verses don't necessarily go well together, and it doesn't have to go with the album. It's a nice thing to have in there, but it doesn't go with it. But things like that.
Like Underwater.
I would probably take out Underwater. I would probably take out a few of the skits, and man, but as you ask that question, you kind of go through the tracks and you're like, but they're all really good.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I'm reading through the track list and I'm trying to take out stuff, and it's really hard. Yeah, because they're all really dope tracks. And what's crazy is right after this album, he put out more Fish. Right. So it's a continuation of this album. It's more tracks along the same lines. And he almost could have just made this a double album and added, 6 or 7 more tracks from more Fish and just put them out at the same time. But yeah, it is really hard to take out tracks. For me, I'm taking out Barbershop, not because I don't like these tracks, but I think it could have been. It's a long listen. It's a lot to take in. By the time you get to track 18, you're like, all right, I'm ready for this journey to be over. Yeah. Even though it's great, I still enjoy it, but I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah. So this is strictly, not that you hate the song. It's just more like, hey, you have to cut this down. Right. Let's say you have to cut 4 tracks out.
You're executive producer, and you want it to be a little bit more of a cohesive listen for the listener and a quicker, especially for today's day and age. If we're looking at 2020, our attention spans are much lower than 2006. So we got to slim this down a little bit. I'm taking out Underwater, I'm taking out Jellyfish, Barbershop. Damn, I want to take out 9 Milli Bros, but I also don't because it's a dope Wu-Tang track. It's like you gotta have the Wu-Tang track on here.
I mean,
that's hard.
But if you had to cut to shorten it,
yeah,
that's the one I'm going with. So if I had to pick 4 tracks, I'm picking 9 Milli Bros, I'm picking 3 Bricks, I'm picking Underwater, and I agree with you in taking out Jellyfish. I'm only taking out Jellyfish because you have, in terms of promoting women, you have 3 stronger tracks on there in Mama.
Yeah, right.
Back Like That, and Big Girl.
Yeah.
So those would be my 4.
I agree with you on that. I would take that. But yeah, it's an awesome album. I think it's one of Ghostface's top 4 or 5 albums ever. And I think it was released on Def Jam, so it was a major label release. I think it was his highest charting, like biggest selling solo album that he's put out, and deservedly so. It's a great project. It was very well produced. He's got, like I said, he's got Jay Dilla, Pete Rock, Just Blaze, MF Doom on the production, and the other producers on here are great too.
And I never got the feel that this album was overly saturated with too many people. Like you think of Revival, and it's like, there's a lot of features on there.
Right. Even though there are quite a bit of features on here,
it doesn't take away from the album.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. Everyone adds to the album.
Right. And
yeah, it's another case to be made for Ghostface being one of the greatest MCs of all time. After listening to this, it's hard to argue to not put him in the top 25.
Okay. I really have to think about my list. I'm not saying he couldn't get into that. He couldn't crack that top 25, but it's just more of, is that fair to put him there? And, in terms of keeping my interest and keeping me engaged and giving me a vivid display of like what's actually happening, he deserves it. He deserves to be in that top 25 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's our episode on Ghostface Killah's Fishscale.
Mm-hmm.
Great album. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. If you're at all interested in Wu-Tang, and you haven't heard this, it's a great album that fits into the Wu-Tang legacy. It fits right in there perfectly. It's a dope track. I played this while I was shooting hoops, and it was a great album to put on while you're just outside on the basketball court.
Yeah. Listen to this on some walks. It's good. Definitely go check it. Let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, so thank you for listening. Please continue to support us on all our social media platforms. Please follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything you want us to do on future episodes. If there's an album you really want us to look at, please let us know.
Let us know. Everyone, be safe out there. Love each other. Be safe.
Peace.